All right, welcome back. Ultimates issue 19. There's a lot of important stuff to go over. Last time we went over Ultimate Endgame issue 1 and Ultimates 18. This is taking place just a little bit after and during Endgame. And to recap what happened, they entered the dome. The dome cut off all communication from them and shut down the Ultimates network because they also destroyed the space station in the sky, which is what we will start with. So let's hop in. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. What would you sacrifice for what you believe? As the entire thing comes crashing down. The uprising is happening all over the world, but Captain America, Hawkeye, Hank, and I have taken the liberation of the East Coast, mobilizing multiple Ultimate cells and a group of Avengers. To reinforce his position, Captain Britain has brought in his army Never-Ending, an occupying force of enslaved English culture heroes, elves, giants, fairies, ogres, goblins, trolls, orcs, etc. It's make-believe, run amok. Last week, Captain America killed King Arthur. He'll be back. In Avalon, they have resurrection spells and cauldrons of rebirth. Captain Britain himself refuses to leave Camelot, surrounded by good luck gold seized from the Leprechaun treasury, which is maybe why he's winning, despite being an inbred idiot. The fighting has been going on for a month with no signs of slowing down. We've all made sacrifices. Many have made the ultimate sacrifice, as we see this team also getting slain. Basically, Captain Britain is leading from the back, leading from overseas. With an unending army, they're not able to keep up. Some of us sacrifice in other less obvious ways too small to see with the naked eye, as the wasp climbs into this giant's ear and grows big and kills him. She did this trick earlier against the Hulk's group, where she became big in this guy's stomach and killed him. And then they all notice, whoa, the Ultimates network is down. And that's when they all begin to freak out and say, oh no, it's the Triskelion. So with this group out there, basically stranded against this unending battle, they ask Captain America, what do we do? It doesn't matter. There are at least a dozen people on the board. We need to perform a search and rescue. We have to keep doing our mission. But with the Triskelion down, there's no more teleporter. So Captain America coming up with an idea says you have to just do this thing on foot. You guys get big, so good thing that you guys can do this fast with such big strides. But this issue follows the Wasp, her point of view. If you couldn't tell by the yellow text, I never wanted to get married. I saw what marriage had done to my mother, and I swore I'd never let that happen to me. Besides, I had dreams, big ones. I wanted to leave a mark on the world. Marriage would only hold me back. But then I met Hank. It was one of my father's corporate balls, which were generally just a bunch of old men, titans of industry, or distinguished scientists. But then I met Hank. And so he goes up to her and says, hello, I'm Henry Pym. It's a lot less boring than that makes it sound, but my friends call me Hank. He was just a boy in a room full of old men, but he took up space somehow. We started seeing each other casually. Neither of us wanted anything serious. We just liked being together. We had ups and downs like any relationship. Sometimes his animated brilliance would cross over to mania. And then there were days I couldn't get him out of bed. But these were rare and short-lived. It was a small price to pay for what we had. Every night we order food and just talk until sometimes it would become sunrise. He described a new theory of matter, and I'd show him my designs. Hank never made it seem that one was more important than the other. He was the only man I'd ever met who didn't try to make my dream seem small. One day, I realized that despite my best efforts, I was in love with him. I remember exactly because it was the same day as Hank's accident. It was the day that changed everything. Leaving the past, coming back to the battlefield, they see one member of the Project 4 onto the floor, body basically mutilated. She's alive. She tries to comfort her, but she says, I'm sorry, I don't know your name. And she says, I did this. This was my fault. As they call for Janet, as the hand helicarrier comes down from the sky. But 1,000 miles away, something else happens. Something crash lands onto the ground, and it turns out to be She-Hulk. But before we see the rest of that, they said it was a miracle Hank survived the crash. They said it was debatable. When he finally woke up 4 weeks, 3 brain bleeds, and 18 surgeries later, he was a different person. It was like someone had erased his mind. Later, I found out that's exactly what they'd done. Thinking too hard, the kind of rigorous, sustained thinking his work required, gave him awful headaches. He can no longer do crossword, much less high-level physics. And our father comes in and basically fires him on the spot because he can't do the job anymore. And Janet is, of course, upset, but he says Don't get emotional. You've known him for less than a year. You may say you love him, but he's dead weight, Janet. You're young. You have your whole life ahead of you. And she said my father was right. I did have my whole life ahead of me. And this wasn't the man I fell in love with. The man I fell in love with could recite French poetry from memory. The man I fell in love with could speak eloquently on a quantum entanglement in Greek literature. This man struggled to string simple sentences together. This wasn't the man I fell in love with. I had to walk away. But then after everything he'd been through, he said something amazing. And all he did was ask, "Are you okay?" I mean, how could I walk away from that? So instead of walking away, they got married a few weeks later at a courthouse. My parents refused to attend. A few of my friends and old colleagues agreed to be our witnesses. Without the financial support of my parents, I had to worry about money. This was a new thing for me. I had no job experience, so all I could get was retail and waitressing work. Hank got a job cleaning the bathrooms at the university where he used to teach. Then, Hank's long-lost uncle died, and Hank inherited a van of a bunch of bug-killing equipment. So I designed the logo, and we made the most of it. It wasn't exactly kosher, but it put food on the table, and we got to be together. It was a small life, smaller than expected, but I was happy. Mostly, still sometimes I stayed up at night imagining the other, bigger life. The one that died in the crash is so big, I'd have to crane in my neck to see it. But that's when they first came to me. They came to me in the night. And so we will see who that will be. But we assume that it is Hand for now. The helicarrier then shoots down beams, knocking over Hank, as the no-faces jump out and start shooting guns. She tells Hank, "Stop!" And the Wasp takes them all down, knocking them all over, killing some of them on the way. And Hank just says, "That's amazing, you're amazing." And instantly he's hit in the chest by another blast from the helicarrier, where she picks him up and saves him and screams, "Stop this." So she recites the code that she was given. Hand is power, hand is magic, hand will make us clean. Code phrase Amber Turncoat Identifier Code 1966-2301-232. We work for Fury, we're on your side. And this confuses Hank because he did not know that she's a double agent. And She-Hulk destroys the no-faces on her island and intends to free her people as she jumps away saying that she was naive. "When do you think you'll get home?" Hank asks Janet. She responds, "I don't know. These sip and knit nights can go long. Don't wait up for me. Go to bed whenever you need to." Hank is exhausted and says, "I don't know how you have all this energy." Training was 4 nights a week. Hank never knew a thing. She keeps giving him excuses. The course seemed random and bizarrely specific. Subjects like hand-to-hand and air-to-air combat, ethics, leadership, military history and strategy, physics, especially as related to mass, density, and momentum. Espionage, of course. They even had me practice synaptic control interfaces. Again, we still don't see who these people actually are. We just assume it's Hand for now. I hated lying to Hank. And she talks with the person and says, "We can trust him. He's a good man. He's my husband." And the voice responds, "It's not about trust. Hank's a good kid, but you know as well as I do, he's too soft and emotional. If he really knew the way the world worked, he wouldn't like it. It'd eat him up inside." Well, how do you know that? I just do. If you love him, you keep him in the dark for as long as you can. This person seems to know Hank as well, but we keep going. That's why I did it for him. Or at least, that's what I told myself at the time. But if I'm being honest, and I want to be more honest, I did it for me. I loved it. It felt like I had purpose. I felt my life getting bigger than I ever had imagined. So she asks, "Send me on a mission. You've been training me for years. Let me put it into practice." The person says no, and for a good reason. So she asks, "What makes me so special?" And then one day she did see it. The origin box was given. The vision. Do you understand now, Janet? We've been putting this together for a very long time. It's all been planned out. So with the assumption of Hand, they knew that she was one of the people on the list. As Nick Fury walks up and says, "All right, boys, I'll talk to him." He says, "Great work, Van Dyne. We couldn't have done it without you." And Hank says, what are they talking about?" And before she has the chance to explain, he says, "She did it for you, you know, to protect you." Hank says, "I don't understand, Janet. What's happening?" He didn't know about this double agency. "Hank, I had to. It was the only way. I didn't know." So Fury goes on, "I don't think he's taking this well. He seems unstable. This is not the picture of a man who's going to keep a secret. He's barely the picture of a man. It looks like a liability for all of this." As Janet keeps pleading, You have to keep him. But instead, he holds up the gun, getting ready to kill him, and says, "We're not done with you yet. We'll keep your Hank as a guest. We've got plenty of room in the holding cells." So Hank, before he is taken, says, "Janet, why would you do this?" "Well, I had a vision, Hank." "Yeah, I know. I was there." "No, something else. Not from Tony." Before she's able to finish, he interrupts and says, "So you work with this man?" And Fury says yes, but before he's able to fully finish, somebody puts his hand through his head, taking out his robotic brain, saying no, she doesn't work with him. It's the Vision. This universe's version of the Vision. She works with me. This is the real person that's been training Janet Van Dyne the entire time. She was a triple agent. And with that, we end the video, because the next time, Vision is going to help the Ultimates get back on track. Thank you for listening, watching, enjoying. Make sure to keep in touch. Keep on there. Also, comment any comics you want us to go over. Yeah. Peace out.